em có mình cũng cho mà cho mình đang có tay mình sẽ quăng đi nào đặng qua cuối mình được cũng mình tâm yêu cô ye cái gì mà xíu quả chưa
Mio Ngai. I am Ngai.
đó đừng mấy cái còn khó
When the white people first came, I was already a young woman with breasts. Before the white people came, we did what our hearts wanted. We lived in different places, far apart. And when our hearts wanted to travel, we traveled. We were not poor. We had everything we could carry. No one told us what to do. Now the white people tell us to stay in this place. There are too many people. There's no food to gather. Game is far away, and people are dying of tuberculosis. But when I was a little girl, we left sickness behind us when we moved. Short face. They said, that woman doesn't know ugliness. My sister said, hey you, give me your face. Mine is too long. We sang about my face, my sister and I. We were a people who had waters. Even in the season room, the cold, dry season, we had water. Even in the driest years, some of our water stayed fresh in the rocky places. We lived where we could fill up with water, fill our ostrich eggs and tummies. When the sun was killing us with thirst, I said, Mother, I don't want just water, roots, and melons. Go and get some real water. Sometimes our food was far from the water. But even when we had to travel far to eat, we knew we could come back to water.
The San were the gatherer-hunters of southern Africa. San have lived here in the western Kalahari Desert for at least 20,000 years. In 1952, the Trong, an independent San people, still occupied an area of 15,000 square miles. We met and talked with Trong people from 23 separate bands.
When we were all living in the bush, I was a child, just a little child, only so big. We gathered so many different things. We picked kole berries and struck down. I loved to follow my mother. The two of us would be right beside each other. If my mother went gathering without me, I would cry because I was just a little girl. When we hit the nga tree, the sweet berries fell. We'd all pick them up and pile them together to take home. I was such a big little woman then. Most things we dug, our arms ached. We pried out the kabi root and dug kwa, the water root, from deep in the ground. In the forest, we gathered mengeti nuts. There was so much tea in the fall. And ma, the wind fruit. We had to taste things. Some of them were bitter. Some people ate plums. Some people didn't. In winter, the berries dried, but there was cucumber in the spring, and the beans you call wild coffee, and different insects. And when the year grew warm, the trees oozed sap, which we call khum, and you call gum. Khum was so sweet.
Khung territories had no boundaries. Territories were defined by inherited rights to waters and to places where plant foods could be gathered. From the Khung, we learned of more than 90 edible species of plants.
That was the food we ate. Those were the things that made us good and full and gave us many different tastes. My mother would open the baobab fruit and ask if we wanted some. Even if you hadn't worked, if hunger grabbed you, you could eat. And when we used up all the food and the year turned hard and hot, we traveled to another place. Those things we did long ago, before we knew about money. Now we live at Shumpu. Here we eat one thing, Millie Meal. And Millie Meal and I hate each other. When I was little and men hadn't killed meat, that's when people went out gathering. But when the men went hunting and saw an animal and hit, yeah. My father was such an expert. When he'd get up to go hunting, because people hadn't eaten meat, the animal was as good as dead. Even a giraffe would be eating meat just like that.
It took 4 men 5 days to track the wounded giraffe. The little arrows could hardly make an impression on an animal that big. The poison on the arrows enters the bloodstream and works slowly. In the winter, the ground is hard, the tracks difficult to see. Koma had to practically think his way to the giraffe. It took 3 hours to kill the giraffe. She weighed more than half a ton and provided enough meat for 50 people to eat sparingly for 10 days.
When the men came back with the meat and the insides of the animal and the intestines and the heart, they would distribute it to all of us. We would pound it and cook it. Women from other bands would take a share in their corroses. We would have meat to dry and fat to spare to rub on ourselves. When the season changed and the rain came, it was best of all. Some rains were heavy and strong, really scary. We called them qaqo, male rain. Some rains were even and quiet. That was the female rain that filled the land with water. When I was little, I just played with my girlfriends. I hadn't taken my husband, Gunda. But Gunda's mother and father were talking about our marriage. People were talking about giving me to Gunda. I used to play at his mother's house, but once they talked of marriage, I stopped. They gave him a new spear and made jokes which I didn't think were funny. We didn't even like to play with little boys. Boys always wanted us to play getting married. They were after us. They'd steal our ball and we'd have to chase them. We'd say, "You're boys and we don't want you. We only want to be girls playing together. We don't want you boys bothering us all the time." But my family prepared me for marriage anyway. They washed me and they put fat on and painted me so I would never get thin. My cousin Samko said, "Hey, that's your husband over there." I said, "That red face? Why are you saying that's my husband?" And when my mother-in-law greeted me with, "Hey, my little in-law," I said, "In-laws, I don't need." You can't imagine how fearful I was of that man, Gunda. They brought him. His friends brought him to the marriage house our mothers had made for us. I thought, what have people done to me? My heart doesn't want this. But my cousin and my sister came to me and covered me so the sunlight wouldn't fall on me and make me thin. And they carried me so my feet wouldn't touch the ground because that could make a girl thin too when she's getting married. It was on an evening in the early winter when they brought me to the marriage hut. Naturally, I didn't sleep with Gunda that night. I went home and slept with my mother. And of course, Gunda and I didn't live together for many, many rains.
Ngai and Gunda were married in 1953 when she was 8 and he was 13. By 1958, Gunda had begun to live with Ngai and hunt for her parents in bride service.
When we finally had to live together, Gunda and I, we slept with my bottom near his head near my bottom, so there was everything between us. I refused him. I said in my heart, "Give me someone else. This Gunda I don't want." Maybe it wasn't Gunda himself I rejected. I just didn't want a husband. I thought that when I was grown up, I would find another husband, somebody I myself had chosen. I refused to sleep with Gunda or even play with him under the blanket. My heart refused it. When we girls get our breasts and begin to grow, our mothers praise us. Hey, they say, look at you showing. Now you're doing what women do. They encourage us about being women. We tease each other and joke about what's happening to each other and compare. But we're scared. Many of us are scared about sleeping with men and having babies. Because of the pain and danger, women die. My friend Shadle was afraid of childbirth. Her stomach was lying there. I didn't know what the matter was, but I thought, that woman is terrified of the childbirth. My uncle Tigre and her brother went to her to lay on hands in medicine. It was as if she was dying. My mother said, don't go there. A woman who's going to have her very first child shouldn't be afraid of the childbirth. Girls like you who haven't given birth mustn't watch a woman who fears. But I went and I watched.
Curing is a religious act. God comes to the people himself, or sends his agents, the spirits of the dead, to bring sickness and death. But God also provides the spiritual power, the Ngum, which is an inner curing force. Ngum can be activated within certain people to fight against God's will and sometimes to cure disease. Trancing can be dangerous. People have died in trance, probably from heart failure.
My uncle and her brother went into half-death to cure Shadli. They tried so hard. She lived, but the baby had died inside her. Mother told me I mustn't fear, because when a woman fears childbirth, her baby dies. Her own blood kills it. I thought and thought about that, but I didn't become brave right away. Even my uncle Tigre chided me because I still refused my husband. And when I was older, it got worse with my husband because I did not choose him myself. I slept with other men. I cheated. People were furious. My husband wanted me, but I said no. I am going to love the man I want. My husband did not know for years. My husband suspected, but he did not know. I did the tasks of a young wife, but I felt terrible inside. I didn't laugh or smile. Sometimes he would have food. I didn't want to touch it. I tormented him. People told me, he's your husband. Once the two of you know one another, his thoughts will be to you like your mother's and father's thoughts. I didn't listen to that. And in those same years, Gunda began to find his medicine. He began to trance. And when Gunda began to trance, it was worst of all. I thought, he's crazy. I watched and thought, I'm living with a madman. My husband has gone insane, and I am married to him. I'd look at him in half-death and think, this man is positively dangerous. Finally, this is how my thoughts came to care for Gunda. The old people took me and said, listen, short face, this man won't hurt you. Look at him learning to cure people. The owners of medicine, the old people, even Tigbe himself, are teaching him. This is how they spoke to me, and I began to listen. And so we had our first child, and it died, like Shagla's child. But I was not afraid. And then we had our daughter, Huatla, and she lived. She was born to us before the white people came.
In 1978, at Chumkwi, there were 800 Kong living in 25 square miles.
Don't come to me now. Don't look at my face. Death is dancing with me now.
These women don't work. They loaf around all the time, you know. If they should be paid for the work they actually perform, yes, they won't draw 25 on them. even less. And then we have a crowd around here cleaning up all the time, you know, the yards and garden and the office, which is in the process of being completed now.
That's how it is now. People claw at me. When white people take pictures of me and pay me, everyone is jealous. They are hungry for food and money. You see, today we are not eating. Hunger is grabbing us all. Now we must go far to hunt. Zamko, my cousin, was already a man when his father bought a horse. Now he is a horse hunter. But we are afraid. When we hunt with a horse, the white people say we steal the meat. They say the hunters may go to jail.
We asked the game warden to explain government policy about hunting. He said, "A while ago I drove to Kaunwa to see the giraffes. I could see them perfectly and take pictures. They are very rare and beautiful." That was before the horse. Today I saw 3. I saw many vultures. And I know if the Bushmen go on like this, you'll see no more giraffes in the land.
Boesmanland is een van die plekke wat nog kameelperde het. Hy moet self besluit.
The Bushmen themselves must decide if they want their grandchildren to see giraffes.
Of hy wil sien dat skilpad se kanasie eendag ook kan sien.
If you steal, you are guilty.
As jy steel, dan is jy mos skuldig.
If you break the law, you're guilty.
En as jy nie die wet in die wet hou nie, is jy mos skuldig.
Mi otsem khauto kmanaka mingorena mikhumika okhara ominga insike amikhung amewim ekuminku mina uyo kanjwa ekaba tekuara mr kuarache kuara kharasi.
Last year budget was a total sum of 595,000 rand 420, and under that you get different divisions like fire breaks 10,000 rand, the development of human potential like the school 2,000. Infrastructure for administration, 200,000. Resettlement of people, 1,000 rand. Then we have reticulation. That's special treats like dances and things we gave to the Bushmen. 1,000 rand. That's for, you could say it's kind of human relations between us and them. Social services like health, the maintenance of the clinic, 2,500. That's the lot.
We told the doctor that this baby had been sick since she was born. We asked what the infection might be.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no obvious evidence of any infection in that child's chest at the moment. Fair enough, the child is coughing. I think the main problem being is that they live in their little grass huts and they make their fires within the huts. And this constant exposure to respiratory irritants is probably the biggest causative factor as far as the coughing amongst the Bushmen is concerned. I think a Bushman accepts coughing as being something that's quite normal, whereas we tend to regard it as a pathogenic symptom. In other words, all that they really need is just some form of cough mixture just to try and depress the irritation. That's the way I see it.
The baby died within the month. Our oldest son died like this, here at Shumkwi, here in my arms. But my son was almost a man. He was of the age, the difficult, lazy age we call the Qidi Qausi, the owners of the shade. Death is ruining me. Death is stealing from me. Death is dancing me ragged.
In August 1978, the South African Army established the first military base near Chumkwi. They came to recruit and to carry out operations against the guerrilla forces of the Southwest African People's Organization, or SWAPO.
Ja, kijk. Ons zoeken 3 van de daddy. Hè? En ons kan hier. Alles is daddy vlees. Daddy vlees. Daddy fruta. Op de zoeken 3 Peulenboog. En hierdie 2. Zeg je alles. Jij krijgt van mij nog 2 Peulenboog. En hierdie. Ik heb vat er 4, hè? Ja. Zo. Daar jij vat. Ja. Wat daar die andere man? Kom eens. Daar die man dat geskiet voor Swapo. Al daar die mannen ook Boesman. Ja. Daar die ook Boesman. Ja. Allemaal geskiet voor Swapo. Ja, hij is hoe kom jij bang? Als één Swapo is schiet voor jou. Ja. Ga je werken is schiet je bij. Bij je schiet. Je was er van me. Ga je schiet me. Wat je die geweer en schiet je? Swapo is schiet me. Nee, je schiet voor Swapo. Ja. Je neemt bij je bang. Ons leer voor jou. Ons leer voor jou. Ons zegt, Swapo, ik kom uit je leven, die gras en niet zien voor jou. Swapo, je loopt voorbij, je schiet van. Nee, ik niet zo blij bij die is. Ik niet zo blij bij die is. Ik maak koos mooi bij die was. Ja, je maakt mooi koos. Je werkt bij die kombuis. Ja, bij die kombuis. Ik maak koos.
People are saying, I have many things and they have nothing. They say these South Africans take my picture because they think I am beautiful. That's why I get paid.
They say, look at me, I told him, mình cậu ấy cậu đi cần phải giải đi thêm cần cần cậu nói gì chắc ai phải chịu thế mình cần nhớ là vậy
Ja, hier praat net 'n bietjie daar nog mee so. Hoor. Hallo, hallo praat jy weer met hoor?
hai mình cho này cái gì sắm này giờ chụp không sắm này xin người cố kì để mình cho này nó sẽ sao bộ
Uta mungu ko mo isha udimu.
Ja, maar.
Uta ati.
Nga.
No bua ni na.
Ja.
Chingwa.
Chi tenta.
Can we have a look at one?
Go.
Go.
Come on, I'm talking. Don't go. Đó ở đây khách à?
Hij bent er net op, ja. Bij hem op. Nog een keer, dan zit hij hem neer aan lopen. Hij moet net toestaan.
optel en net vir hom se vrou gaan dit en dan neersit. Hy moet nie lank met hom loop nie, nee. Hy moet hom net optel en weer neersit.
Alta.
And he zoom out as they meet.
Go.
From these white people, in one day, I made 3 rand. I am a woman who can buy things. But people say I am hiding things. Sometimes I share, but sometimes I don't want to give to other people because my children are full of wanting to eat. So now, when people are jealous, they remember. They are saying that my daughter has slept with a stranger for money. I am a person who has work. That's why people lie about my daughter, to hurt me. That's what I was talking about. But people are really yelling at me because of the work I have with you and other white people.
Ada dem kai ta chăm cầu ngọt, ada ta cái giờ số ta tiền.
Em ra đây quên cái nào con làm xem.
Phát hành. À chắc chắn mày cơ. Chắc cả cả. Sao bảo là trong không à?
Ya di juga tuan kasih muka di sini.
Mình không có xong rồi. Cầm hộp mình hồn phải cầm xin mấy cu cả đấy. Chứ cái cái chúng ta.
We joined Ngai at church. The lesson was John 4, the story of the Samaritan woman.
Die storie van 'n Samaritaanse vrou. Jesus en sy mense het ver geloop. Toe kom hulle daar by die gat waar
Jesus and his people had traveled far and came to the well.
Toe gaan Jesus daar sit.
Jesus sat alone,
Maar hy het nie skeping om water te kry.
but he had no cup to get water.
Terwyl hy daar wag, kom daar 'n vrou van die dorp af, sy kom haal water daar.
While he waited, a woman came from the village to get water.
Toe sy nou daar sou kom, en toe sê Jesus vir haar,
Jesus asked her for water. She said, "I can't give you water. You're Jewish."
Jesus het mooi na haar gekyk.
But Jesus had looked closely at the woman.
Nog voor hy vir haar water gevra het, hy binne in haar hart al gesien.
Before Jesus asked for water, he looked deep into her heart.
Daar het hy gesien, hierdie vrou is 'n slegte vrou. Ons moet hierdie vrou help.
He saw she was a bad woman.
En daarom het hy so met haar begin praat.
We must help this woman.
En toe hy nou so met haar gepraat, hy sê vir haar, gaan roep gou jou man.
So he spoke with her, saying, "Go call your husband."
Sê die Here vir haar, ja, ek weet.
"I have no husband," she replied.
Jy het 5 mans. En daardie een wat jy nou het, is nie jou man nie, is ander een.
"I know," said Jesus. "You have 5 men.
Ja, vat hy die man, hy dink hy sal hom help.
You take a man to help you
En beklei hulle weer, en vat hy weer die ander.
and fight with him, then take another.
Sy ken net die slegte goed. Die mense slaan vir haar.
People abuse you.
Die mense maak haar.
People make you grieve.
En Jesus wil nie net vir ons die kos en die water en die klere gee.
Jesus doesn't want to give us just food and clothes and water.
Hy sê, jy weet wie God is.
Jesus says, "You know who God is?
Jy kan enige ding vra.
You can ask for anything.
God kan dit vir jou gee.
God can give it to you.
Hy kan vir jou help.
He can help you."
Jesus sê vir haar, ek is God.
Jesus said, "I am God.
Ek is God se seun.
I am God's son."
Ek kan vir jou help. For this morning, I wanted them to know that Jesus Christ not only gives us water and bread and food and things like that, but as for the woman at the well, he asked for water and he sort of promised her something else in the place of that. Another water, that means real life.
Now, really. Those two at the water hole had never even met before. How can a woman go down in a water hole with a perfect stranger? Calling himself God's son. It would have been very bad. Her husband would have punished her for being alone with such a man. That man was fooling her.
That means that they will have, what do you call it? They must come in live a good life with other people and with God also.
We visited the military base and asked the captain where he and his soldiers came from.
I met these people in the Western Caprivi. Tried to train a few of these Bushman people in gardening and farming with sheep and cattle and pigs and those kind of things. And the younger people we accept in our permanent force, and we train them like the whites are trained before. They are good fighters, they are brave men. I think in that kind of war we are fighting in the bush, they are a little bit better than most of our whites, which most come from the cities. For the Bushmen are used to the veld and especially trekking and survival. They are brave, they are really brave. But at this stage they look up to white leadership in action. For they believe that the white men are more intelligent and the white man knows all and the white man knows what to do. They believe in the white man.
We told Koma, a Kong leader, what the captain had said and asked him what he thought about it. We told the captain about some of the aggression we saw and asked him to compare his soldiers with the people at Chumkwe.
Yeah, that I also take back to the training. I think it's the only reason they are much more developed and more educated than the people at Chumkwe.
And you're going to have people from Chumkwe also in the army?
I start on Monday morning. I start with 50.
What's going to happen when you go, the South Africans? What's going to happen to these people?
Well, I never thought of going. I intend to stay here all my life. I can't see that we will go. And if we had to go, I suppose the Bushmen will go with us. For Inuit, they find friends and they find help. They find a future living.
Death Yes, death is stealing from me. Will death steal me too?
How long are they going to be? How long do they sign up for?
Yeah, as long as they want. Most of them will stay the rest of their lives there.
Now people mock me and I cry. My people abuse me. The white people scorn me. Death mocks me. Death dances with me. Don't look at my face. Don't look at my face.